Insightful podcasts by informative hosts. Insights into Things, a podcast network. Welcome to Insights into Entertainment, a podcast series taking a deeper look into entertainment and media. Your hosts, Joseph and Michelle Whalen, a husband and wife team of pop culture fanatics, are exploring all things from music and movies to television and fandom.
Welcome to Insights into Entertainment. This is episode 93, Thoughts, Souls, and Sorcerers. I'm your host, Joseph Whalen, and my talented and inspirational co-host, Michelle Whalen.
Hi, everyone.
How are you doing today, dear?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm doing all right. We had quite the hiatus from podcasting for the last few weeks.
We sure did.
Did a lot of work in here.
Yep.
Ripped everything out and put it all back in.
And everything seems to be working, which is...
Fingers crossed and knocking on wood.
You know, we did some work, around the house as well.
Yep.
A couple of remodeling-y, redecorating, things. And, still a little work to do, but...
Very, very productive use of our downtime.
Yes, absolutely.
So we are back after the first of the year now in the new year. Thankfully, 2020 is behind us.
Thank goodness.
This actually our third season will kick off in February, I believe. Mm-hmm. That's our official season break. But
right.
Moving forward here, we're keeping the same format, and we got new headsets, new mics, new positionings for the mics. We've rearranged the studio a bit here. We have our monitors up on swing arms now, so it looks a little nicer. Mm-hmm.
Makes it easier when the studio transforms into my office.
Home office, yeah. We also replaced the computer that does all the heavy lifting for us here. Mm-hmm. Much more robust system there. So hopefully a lot of the glitches and screen issues and sound issues that we were experiencing before the new year has we've managed to arrest all those, and we're good to go moving forward. Mm-hmm. So this week we're kind of easing into things. There was a lot of stuff that went on. We're not going to play catch up on any of that entertainment news. So we are going to take a look at a couple of different things here. In our Disney Detective, we're going to take a look at our thoughts on Soul, the new Pixar movie that came out. We watched that. We have yet one more thing that we're losing, and is this Disney World and Disneyland?
Just Disney World. They were the only ones that actually had it.
We're losing a little bit more magic from Disney World, which is kind of sad.
Yeah.
Then we'll move on to our Disney Detective, where we will give...
Tales from
the Edge of the Galaxy. See, new year, same flubs.
I didn't, and this is my fault. I didn't give you your little notes that I normally do.
Yeah, you usually give me a summary here to make it a little easier.
Yeah, so it's all my fault. So
in our Tales from the Edge of the Galaxy, we will recap the Mandalorian finale, which was fantastic. Mm-hmm. And in relation to that, a little bit of Mandalorian news from between
a little bit of love going back and forth between.
And well deserved too.
Yeah,
absolutely well deserved. Mm-hmm. Then in our entertainment news, we will talk about Wonder Woman 84. Mm-hmm. Then we'll talk about Hamilton and their eligibility for rewards before we finish up with our insightful picks of the week. Mm-hmm. Before we get into all that stuff, I would invite folks to subscribe to the podcast. You can get the audio versions of the podcast if you look for Insights into Entertainment. Video versions of the podcast and all of our network podcasts are actually listed as Insights into Things. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Amazon, and Pandora. That was the other one. I didn't get that one into the notes yet.
Oh, well. Next time.
Yeah. We've been saying that for, I think, 4 podcasts now.
Oh, well.
We would also invite folks to reach out to us, give us your feedback, tell us what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, what you'd like us to talk about, what you'd like us not to talk about. You can email us at comments@insightsintothings.com. We're on Twitter at insightsintothings. You can hit us on Facebook at facebook.com/insightsintothingspodcast, or get links to all that and so much more on our website at www.insightsintothings.com. Are we ready?
Let's do it.
Let's dive right in. Go.
I wanted to just keep singing. So again, kind of changing it up a little bit, this week. Again, lots of stories came out with different things that were going on in the parks and whatnot. So we, I figured we'd kind of change it up. So first we can talk about one of the things that just came out that'll be going away at the Magic Kingdom, and that is the little scavenger hunt game.
Wait, we're not going to talk about Soul?
You want to talk about Soul first?
Well, that's the first in the list.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You're throwing me off script here.
Well, because you, all right, whatever. So, let's talk about Soul. So Soul was the Pixar movie that was supposed to be released into the theaters for 2021, and obviously with everything going on with the pandemic, that was one of the movies that Disney had decided that on Christmas they were going to release it on Disney Plus. It wasn't going to be a premium subscription needed like it was with Mulan, so it was available on Christmas. We didn't watch it actually until last week. We kind of took our time because we were doing other things. We weren't in a big rush. We kind of did it actually during the middle of the week, which we normally don't watch movies together as a family, during the week. But we were kind of having a little bit of a rough week, and we decided, let's watch this and hope it's a good movie. And we all enjoyed it. It was very enjoyable. Probably not so. It's funny because when I had posted on Facebook that we had watched it, a friend of mine from high school had asked if we thought her 3-year-old daughter would have liked it. And I said she probably wouldn't have understood a lot of the plot, but she probably would have enjoyed the music, definitely would have enjoyed the one character, the cat.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, in terms of, the Pixar movies, it's definitely a much more mature movie, so like your teenage.
And it was kind of a more refined plot than you normally get, too.
Yes.
Wasn't it the simplistic black and white?
Right. I definitely think it was more, your teenage.
Absolutely.
And above, and definitely more adulty than,
And what I thought was interesting about it was, given the circumstances of 2020, it had a very poignant meaning and a very poignant focus to appreciate the things that you do have by the end of the movie.
Yes. And, and that was definitely the big focus of it. And I think also the fact that, another theme to it was, don't try to go for that big thing. Enjoy the little things,
Don't miss out on the little things that really are what make life worthwhile.
Exactly. Don't, if that big thing, and the big thing happens, you might be disappointed because it wasn't everything you wanted it to be. So you should really enjoy.
The message was really kind of, life is a sum of all the parts, not one particular aspect of it.
Right.
And there's so many things on a day-to-day basis that we probably tend to overlook.
Yeah.
And this was a nice little nudge to kind of focus on everything that happens. Maddie and I did our podcast this morning, and a lot of it was, we had talked about Christmas and presents.
Right.
And she had made the comment of, well, I didn't get a lot of big presents. I got a lot of little presents, but a lot of those little presents mean a lot to me.
Right. Like she was more excited about the little magic 8-ball than, than the robot, the little, couple of dollar trinkety thing. And it almost reminds me of the year
aquarium.
when the little $2 aquarium that I had gotten her, which was this little tiny thing you put water in and the little fish expand. And that for like a year was like her favorite toy, and it didn't do anything. It was just, and I think, listening to you guys doing the podcast and her, mentioning the magic 8-ball as being like that's
was a highlight. And
that was the highlight.
And you know what? I'll be honest with you. For me, it left me with a lot of pride knowing that she appreciates the little things, not just as far as presents, but the little things in life.
Right.
The quality family time we have together, the movie time that you and her have when you sit down and watch TV.
Like she was upset because I was late the one night because we started watching something later than our normal whatever, and I wasn't ready right at 8:00, and she was kind of upset.
And even like we had stopped doing the podcast for a couple of weeks because we had everything ripped apart.
Right.
And she missed having those discussions. Yeah. So, and that's really what the message of the movie is. It's appreciate those things because especially nowadays, those things can be taken away from you when you least expect it.
Exactly.
So, I've heard a lot of people criticize the movie. I heard one person who really didn't like the movie describe it as listening to that snowman from Frozen for the entire movie. And it wasn't that bad.
Yeah,
there were slow parts. There were some, predictable parts to it. But I think overall it was what we needed when we got it.
Yeah.
So it was very good timing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would highly recommend it if you haven't watched it yet.
Yeah.
So now we can talk about something that Disney's taking away.
Sure. So news just came out this week that another Disney Magic opportunity is going to be going away. So according to a cast member who a couple of people had spoken with, that is located at the Firehouse, which is inside the Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World. They had mentioned that the Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom game would be coming to an end on January 24th. So Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom is essentially a scavenger hunt game where participating guests could search for 20 magic portals throughout the park and then battle with Disney villains such as Cruella, Scar, Jafar, Maleficent, Ursula, Radcliffe, and Dr. Facilier. No news as to if something is going to be replacing it or not. Obviously, they've been trying to kind of push people to the Disney Park app, and then there's even a Disney Play app where while you're waiting in line, you can play different games and whatnot. So this is, kind of sad to see it go. It's been around. I can't even remember for how long, but what was nice about it was, one, it was free. And not a lot of stuff in Disney is free. It's also kind of one of those hidden gems. Not that many people knew about it. Or a lot of people knew about it, but they didn't advertise, I guess, that they had it. So when you would first go into the park, they'd have the Firehouse where they'd have like a little sign, and every day a new pack of cards would come out. So anybody that was local, they were going in and getting cards all the time. The other thing that was nice was when they would have special events. So when they would have the Christmas party or the Halloween party, there would be a special set of cards that came out that you could only get if you were going to those parties. So that was kind of a neat thing. And when you would get these cards, that was part of when you would go and play. Again, it was a scavenger hunt. So there were different parts of the park that had these little portals, and you'd have to hold up the card. And there was some sort of technology between what you were playing in the card to determine whether or not you beat the villain or not. And then if you did, it would tell you, okay, now you have to go to this part of the park. So it was a nice little add-on for people that had probably, you know, if you were, again, a local, or if you were somebody that had gone to the park many times. So I think that was maybe the thing, you know, for the person that only goes like once in a lifetime, you probably, you know, weren't going to play. They used to have something in Epcot that was kind of the same thing. They had a Kim Possible scavenger hunt where you needed to borrow their equipment in order to play it, and they had phased that out a couple of years back. So again, it'll be interesting to see if they kind of bring something back into play, you know, instead of that where you're using your own phone and you don't have to, you know, get a card or something from them. So we'll see.
So what was the reasoning they gave for this?
There was no...
Because I can't imagine that it has anything to do with health issues with COVID.
Right.
There can't, like, you know, you might have a couple of staff dedicated to manning the place where you pick up the card.
Right, because
other
than that,
there's a lot of overhead associated
right,
with
you
it.
figure there's usually one or two cast members in there, you know, maybe just the cost of printing out the cards, or maybe the fact that they're printing out the cards, they have to hand out a card, maybe, you know, that's the COVID
Yeah, okay, I could see that.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, all the articles, you know, there were a couple of different, and they were all from fan-based
See, we were talking
websites.
earlier, and this kind of strikes me as sort of when they shut down VMK.
Right.
Where, you know, they've got the architecture already in place. They've got all the stuff in place for this to run.
Right.
So they're already invested in it.
Right.
So I can't imagine it's a cost savings.
Unless they're just going to revamp it where, again, instead of using a card, you're going to use your phone.
Right.
Maybe you have to bring up like a QR code.
Or a
and it
Bluetooth
scans.
low energy or something like that.
Right. So maybe, you know.
But they haven't mentioned anything about bringing a replacement in, have
No,
they?
nothing yet.
Okay. All right. Well, it is what it is, I guess, right?
Yep.
That was all we had for Disney Detective. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with our Tales from the Edge of the Galaxy. For over 7 years, the Second Sith Empire has been the premier community guild in the online game Star Wars: The Old Republic. With hundreds of friendly and helpful active members, a weekly schedule of nightly events, annual guild meet and greets, and an active community both on the web and on Discord. The Second Sith Empire is more than your typical gaming group. We're family. Join us on the Starforge server for nightly events such as operations, flashpoints, world boss hunts, Star Wars trivia, guild lottery, and much more. Visit us on the web today at www.thesecondsithempire.com. Go for Tales from the Edge of the Galaxy.
Pew, 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 pew. So, our thoughts on the season finale of Mandalorian.
Yes. Do we have thoughts?
I think we have lots of thoughts.
Did we watch it?
We sure did.
And we're assuming everyone out there has watched it.
If by now you have not watched it, shame on you.
Yeah.
You're a disappointment. No. Don't listen. But if you didn't watch it by now, you've probably already had spoilers about it. And it was, I personally hadn't read anything about it. I know you did, so you knew what was going to happen because you hate being surprised, where I, on the other hand, I hate knowing because then I'm waiting and anticipating for said thing to happen. It was looking kind of bleak. It was looking kind of dark as the episode started, and how are they going to get out of this? And all of a sudden, you see an X-Wing fly by.
Yes, you
and you're
do.
like, oh my goodness, no!
Well, and the thing is, when they kind of played that up, because you've seen X-Wing show up several times in the series.
Right, so
season.
it could be just any X-Wing.
You know, you're kind of led to believe that it's these two guys that have been flying around and policing the galaxy, maybe.
Right, but you're hoping.
And then the way that they, and that was really the great thing, is that the way that they played it up was that the heroes had stormed the bridge. Right. So they took over the bridge.
Right.
And they were in trouble because these dark troopers were all about to storm the bridge and kill everybody, and they couldn't stop them.
Right.
So you see this arrival unfurl on various monitors.
Right.
And you're seeing glimpses of security cameras here and there. You see the ship show up, you see the person walking, and then all of a sudden you see a lightsaber come out, and it's not in color.
Right.
It's black and white on these screens.
Right.
So you see a hooded figure with a lightsaber.
And that's all.
At that point in time, you could almost assume, oh, Ahsoka's back, right?
Right. You knew it had to be some sort of Jedi.
Right. But it was one lightsaber this time.
Right.
So everyone, everyone grabs their edge of their seat here and are wondering what it is.
Right.
And as the battle goes, this person's slicing these guys up, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And then it cuts to a scene in a cargo hold that's a live scene at this point. It's not a security camera.
Right.
And you see the color of the saber. And more importantly for me, you see the hilt. And the hilt is instantly recognizable to me because I own several of them. And you know at that point, even though the hood is still up and you don't see a face, you know who it is.
Right.
And from then on, the scene unfurls live. You don't see too many of the security cameras.
Right.
So well done the way they did that. It was literally the Darth Vader scene, the hallway scene of Darth Vader from Rogue One, where you got to see how badass Darth Vader was.
Right.
You got to see how badass this person was.
Right.
And they're slicing, they're throwing, they're pushing, they're crushing.
Force choking.
It was awesome.
Right.
And they cut through all the bad guys. They show up on the bridge. They pull their cloak back, and you see
everybody screams.
A young version of Luke Skywalker. Because this is 5 years after Return of the Jedi.
Right.
So they had to digitally de-age Mark Hamill.
Right.
And they bring Mark Hamill back in to play the voice part.
Right. He did the voice part, but they used a different actor for the body and de-aged his face and,
Correct.
Yeah.
So well done.
Yeah.
And you have a couple touching moments on the bridge there.
Yeah.
Because you have, Luke is there to take Grogu, Baby Yoda. And Grogu doesn't want to go.
Right.
Because he doesn't want to leave Mando.
Right.
And Mando's in there in his gear. He's got his helmet and everything on. And Grogu wants to see his face before he goes.
Right.
And he takes the helmet off.
Right.
Which is at that point in time not as shocking as it had been.
Right. Because we've, just in a couple episodes back when, he was on the base, to blend in with all the others, he had to take his helmet off. And,
But you had this very touching scene.
It was very touching.
Father-son scene here that they have.
Yeah.
And this is shortly after, Moff Gideon tries to kill Baby Yoda, and he, Mando dives in front of the child and saves him from the blaster bolts.
Right.
And then you get one last cameo.
Right.
And who's the last cameo you get?
That was
R2-D2.
Oh, right. I I forgot.
Yeah.
We were,
Yeah,
R2-D2,
so R2-D2
follows him around and
shows up, and you get a little cameo of R2 there, and
that went,
right. And at that point in time, everybody's in tears.
Everybody's in tears.
So well done.
Yeah.
And you couldn't have asked for a better. I don't know where they're going to go from here because you can't. But I said the same thing after the finale to the last one. Mm-hmm. Where do you go after that first season finale?
Right, exactly.
Very satisfied by it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got a cut scene.
Teaser, right?
Yeah, we got a cut scene, a post-credit cut scene.
Yeah.
Of a Boba Fett who takes over the crime syndicate on Tatooine, apparently. Mm-hmm. And he's getting his own show.
Yeah.
Apparently everyone gets their own show in Star Wars now.
Right. Everybody gets a spin-off.
Which honestly is kind of terrifying because I really think they're very much in danger of oversaturating the market again. You would have thought they would have learned the first time with the movies.
Well, and the other thing too is that the people that are doing the shows are different from the people that are doing the movies.
Well, and that's the thing. If you put Favreau and Filoni in charge of running the franchise, they've resurrected it so far.
Oh,
with
absolutely.
Mandalorian.
Absolutely.
I mean, everything that should be done right, they've done. Mm-hmm. Which completely is counterintuitive to everything they did with the sequel movies, which should literally just be thrown out right now and let Favreau and Filoni redo the sequel trilogies.
That wouldn't be a bad idea, and I'm sure they've probably thought about it.
Have people that love it do it.
And that's the thing, because that was the other thing that we ended up watching was they did. So when the first season had finished, they had done an 8-part documentary on the season. What they did this time around was they just did a 1-hour special, condensed version of it with, again, behind the scenes stuff and things like that. And again, just seeing the two of them talk about it, they are just as, in love with Star Wars as all of the fans. They are fans and they know how to treat it. And
it's one of those things that when I sit down with my Star Wars fans and we geek out over it, it's the same exact discussion that they have on the set of the shows every day. And
the other thing that was really funny too was the one director, when he was putting together his ideas for, he got his Star Wars figures out and was playing in the backyard with his kids to help act out, how he wanted.
He was using his figures to do the action sequences.
To do the scene, okay, that.
Yeah,
you get my respect.
Yeah, you win right there.
You
should get. There should be an Academy Award just for authenticity.
Right. Exactly. So
very satisfied. Very disappointed that we have to wait until December of next year now.
Yeah, because I believe the Boba Fett story is actually supposed to come out first.
Yeah,
and then we'll get a 3rd season of Mandalorian.
So I don't want to wait that long because it's so good, but I want to wait that long so they do it right.
Right. Exactly.
So, anyway, that's our thoughts on the Mandalorian. And the next article that we have actually is related to that as well. Why don't you tell us about that?
So the article talks about how Mark Hamill was actually left speechless was left speechless by Mignon Wei's comments on Twitter. So they kind of were going back and forth. So obviously, as we've mentioned, Mark Hamill was part of the Mandalorian, the season finale. Obviously he's, a Star Wars legend. So what was kind of nice was, they were tweeting, some love back and forth. So, Mark Hamill had basically said, hashtag no words. Seeing fans' reactions to Luke's return is something I will cherish forever. Their anticipation of seeing the X-Wing in episode 6, then a robe, a lightsaber, a green lightsaber, a gloved hand, an ungloved hand, a force choke, R2-D2 was just overwhelming, very moving to me. And then Mignon had responded saying, "You and Luke have been immensely inspirational and impactful to my childhood and as an adult. And to have shared a scene with you in The Mandalorian is truly one of the biggest highlight, not just in my career, but in my life. Thank you." Smiley face with a heart-shaped red eyes. Your fan always, Minya. And then Mark wrote back, so, he said, "So this happened and I'm literally speechless, other than to say the pleasure was all mine. You're not so bad yourself. Hashtag you're not so bad yourself." And then she actually had talked about how, it was kind of like nerd nirvana, adding that it was way cooler than the time that she met Aerosmith's Steven Tyler and spilled red wine on her arm and he wiped it off with a cocktail napkin. So that ranked up, higher.
That's where that goes, huh?
So it's Mark Hamill, then Steven Tyler spilling wine on her.
Well, the one thing I have to say is it's nice to see not only this love from the actors themselves, but the love from the fans for this work.
Absolutely.
Seeing what happened after some of these after Phantom Menace and what happened to Ahmed Best and what happened to Kelly Tran after Last Jedi.
Right.
Seeing that kind of toxic stuff come up from the fans really is very disappointing. But this show itself has drawn people in. I have one of my employees down in Maryland who watches it with his son. And he said he gets angry at his son because his son watches it without him. He's so into it. It's sort of that bonding stuff, and it pulls people in. It's people that weren't even Star Wars fans are watching this and loving it.
Yeah,
and that tells you something right there. It tells you that they're doing everything right.
Right.
So it's a wonderful thing to see that kind of enthusiasm out there. So that was all we had for our Tales from the Edge of the Galaxy. We'll be back after a quick break with our entertainment news of the week.
Insights into Teens, a podcast series exploring the issues and challenges of today's youth. Talking to real teens about real teen problems. Explore issues from braces to puberty, social anxiety to financial responsibility. Each week, we talk about the topics concerning today's youth. We look at how the issues affect teens, how to cope with these issues, and how parents, friends, and loved ones can help teens handle these challenges. Check out our video episodes on youtube.com/insightsintothings. Catch our audio versions on podcast.insightsintoteens.com or on the web at insightsintothings.com.
Go for entertainment news. So let's talk about that jumbled mess that was Wonder Woman 1984.
So this was one that I was excited to watch. We had been, waiting for it. It was supposed to come out during the summer. Then it got pushed back and, got moved around. And then we were excited to hear that not only was it going to be released in theaters, but HBO Max was going to be offering it. So we signed up for it. So we were ready. So Christmas Day, after we did all our presents and had breakfast, it was time to go watch Wonder Woman. Yay!
That's 2.5 hours of my life I would have liked to have gotten back.
Yeah.
It was, and I was eagerly anticipating it too.
Yeah.
And it was an absolute disappointment. I mean, I love the first one. It was so well done.
Yeah.
This one was, I'm still puzzled as to why it was set in 1984, other than for the novelty of it.
Right.
The plot had nothing to do with the timeline.
Right.
the effects that we saw in there, like, first of all, it was too much digital effects over the top.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that her magic lasso can do literally anything.
Right.
It's such an uber plot twist. She was swinging off of lightning bolts.
You're still hung up on that.
She lassoed an airplane at 30,000 feet until she learned how to fly on her own just from encouragement.
Right.
From Steve Trevor, who shouldn't have come back but managed to be reincarnated somehow in somebody else's. It was all over the place, and it was a mess. I can't describe it any other way than it was just a mess. And I'm still confused as to who the villain was. Because by the end of the movie, the villain was someone you were supposed to have sympathy for.
Right.
Both of the villains were.
Right.
And it made no sense whatsoever watching it.
Right.
It was like 15 different concepts all crammed into a blender, turned on, shredded up, and then poured out on the screen.
Right. And the one thing that kind of came to my mind was the campiness of the original 1970s TV version of Wonder Woman. And in some ways, I was getting that feel that they were maybe trying to do a little of that. But again, like there were parts of the movie that I liked. There were, I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. And, and then, like the whole opening scene was really kind of cool.
Right.
But then it was like.
Well, and that was the problem with the opening scene. It was 20 minutes of an opening scene
that they never
to teach you not to cheat.
Right.
That was literally all you got out of that.
That was the whole thing. I kept expecting bigger to come, where it was just like, okay, you spent all that time.
It was 20 minutes of don't take a shortcut.
Right.
And it was like, at the end of the movie, you're like, why was that even in there?
Right. You probably could have done a 2-minute.
Yeah. You could have done a training montage and gotten away with it.
Right. And then again, the whole, okay, why was it set in the 80s? Okay, maybe you didn't want to set it in, the 2000s or whatever, because then you're getting that mesh of the Justice League and everybody
pretty sure they set it in the 80s just so they could do a joke on fanny packs when they were doing the fashion show with Trevor.
Maybe.
That was literally the only thing.
Right, like I could have seen like the 70s, maybe like the 60s would have been, and maybe the 80s because of the whole the Ponzi scheme and things like that, because that was really when that whole thing started to take off, and Wall Street and greed is good, and so I could kind of see
the reasoning was flimsy at best.
Right, and that's what I'm saying, because again, there was nothing else to, obviously you needed to see that she doesn't age. It was, the 1940s the last time
earlier than that, because it was World War I.
Oh, World War. So, okay, so it was,
1917, 1918.
Okay, so the 1920s-ish, we'll say, and she's basically been able to, do all these things and kind of keep herself hidden for the most part. Okay, so again, why 1984 besides that? And then, she kind of keeps herself hidden when she's fighting, bad guys in the mall, because she's making sure to take cameras.
The cameras out, right?
But yet then there's other things where, now you're in the White House.
Well, and that was the other scene. Like, you're in the White House. You have a fight with another superpowered bad guy in the White House.
Right.
You beat the crap out of a whole bunch of Secret Service guys.
Right.
And then you walk out of the White House?
And nobody
stops you. Nobody asks you anything. I mean...
Right.
Like, it made no sense.
Yeah.
And the worst part about this whole thing had nothing to do with this movie, really. It was the fact that Disney announced they were giving Patty Jenkins a Star Wars movie.
But, there's a lot that goes into It's not always the director. It's not, it's the script.
She was the director and she was the executive producer on this. And she co-wrote the script. So she had complete involvement in this from day one. And that scares me.
Yeah, well.
So, I mean, yeah, not all sequels are good. In fact, most sequels usually tend to suck.
Right. And there was...
This was just not even worth the $15 we spent to get HBO Max.
In a way, thank God it was only $15 and not $45 for us.
That's the saving grace of this movie, is that I only lost $15 watching it. $15 in 2.5 hours.
Yeah. That's
it's pretty bad when the movie is so bad, we pause it in the middle for a bathroom break.
Or what my one friend from work, he actually fast forward. He said he got to a point. Now he never saw the first one,
and that's a shame and that's probably good. Because now you can go watch the first one and realize
oh my God,
terrible.
this is so much better. Yeah. Right, exactly. So he was telling me when we were talking about it how he just sat there and probably fast forward through almost an hour of stuff and would kind of wait till he saw like a fight scene and then.
She did a Mr. Miyagi and rubbed her hands together to make the plane invisible. That's how she got an invisible jet. It's just
Well, and did we ever know, we always knew she had an invisible jet.
She didn't get it from rubbing her hands together. I can tell you that right now.
I don't know. What was the origin of her having maybe this was...
She didn't rub her hands together to make the jet invisible, nor did she swing off of lightning bolt. That's physically impossible. Physically impossible.
Wait, hold on. Wait a second. Superheroes. Hello.
Look, I'll stretch the imagination for superpowers if you want to give me some kind of supernatural.
That's totally impossible.
Lightning bolt.
None of this is impossible.
Had she hit the lightning bolt with the lasso, it would have turned it into dust. Okay.
I love how that's your...
It's just, that's how ludicrous.
That's what you're hung up on.
Pushed me over the edge.
Oh my God.
Was swinging off of lightning bolts.
Okay.
I mean,
sure.
And that's prior to her learning to fly just by getting encouragement from a pilot.
Right.
So anybody can fly.
Right. You just have to be encouraged to do it.
You just have to have a pilot tell you to ride the air. She doesn't have any superpowers that lets her fly. It's just happy thoughts. She doesn't even have pixie dust.
I was just gonna say she got sprinkled with pixie.
Just happy thoughts. She can fly. All right, blood pressure's too high. Let's move on here. Let's talk about Hamilton and the fact that they're definitely not getting an Oscar.
Yeah, so it seems that it's official that Disney Plus's Hamilton won't be eligible for Oscars despite potentially being up for other awards. So the musical obviously had dominated Broadway ever since it premiered in 2015, but obviously with everything that's been going on, theater has been, virtually non-existent. But audiences did get to witness Hamilton over the summer. Disney was originally planning to release the filmed version of Hamilton in the theater sometime in the fall of 2021, but obviously when the pandemic hit and there wasn't much entertainment out there, Disney had changed their mind and this past July made it available on Disney Plus. And also with that, they ended up getting a heck of a lot more subscribers to Disney Plus as well because of that. So obviously all of this kind of had people wondering if Hamilton would now be eligible for an Oscar. And that was something that kind of went back and forth. And, we've talked about Oscar contenders before and what the stipulations are, and that, Netflix had a couple of movies that were able to be eligible for Oscar because they had first premiered in the certain theaters within Los Angeles County and things like that. But then they kind of changed the rules because they talked about how because of theaters being closed, they were going to allow certain movies that were going to be streamed to be eligible. But it seems after kind of going back and forth, because this is actually a filmed version of a live show, I think that's where the technicality kind of, that's where the Oscar committee has basically come in and said that it wouldn't be eligible. But the other thing that seems to be coming out is that it will be able to be up for a Golden Globe and also SAG Awards as well. So it's still a contender for some sort of awards, but obviously not for the Oscars, which, I guess it's not horrible.
Well, and I got to tell you, I'm not surprised at this decision, given the other shenanigans of various entities, Martin Scorsese being one of them, and Steven Spielberg being another one of them, trying to restrict what movies can be nominated for Oscars for whatever reason. Like, I still don't understand why they're so against giving the just rewards to such creative geniuses.
Well, and that's the thing, is they were both on opposite sides, where Steven Spielberg was, it needs to be a film and not on streaming, where Martin Scorsese, The Irishman, which was primarily Netflix, that was, he was okay with it going. So they were kind of on either side. So
why you would want to deny it is beyond me.
Right.
Especially this show itself. It wasn't just somebody set up a couple of cameras in the audience and filmed a stage show.
Right.
This movie that was shown on Disney Plus was a stage show come to life on film. They had special camera angles, special techniques. They had multiple filming days. They did it with and without an audience. It was a major production to do, to present it in a way that you could never see it in the theater.
Right.
That alone should qualify it for these awards.
Yeah.
But you have, these ridiculously over-controlling people who don't want to accept that.
Yeah.
So, and it's, it's one thing if you've got your own movie up and it's competing against it and you want to sort of salt the deck so that you win.
Right.
I don't know. I don't get it. If it meets the qualifications,
right, exactly,
it should be eligible.
Exactly. So
why wouldn't you want to encourage more creative development like that?
Right. Right.
Anyway, so that was all we had for our entertainment news this week. We'll be right back with our
insightful picks.
Right. Our creative picks. No, our insightful picks of the week.
Those things we do.
We'll be right back. Go for your insightful pick.
So my insightful pick is a show that started streaming on Christmas Day on Netflix, and it is called Bridgerton. It is a period drama series that is actually based off of a set of novels by Julia Quinn. And the books came out, I want to say in the 90s, I think different people, I never read the books, but I know different friends of mine who have read the books, and they were very excited to see the show come out, and then people that have now finished watching the show that want to go back and read the set of books. So the drama actually centers around the Bridgerton family, where Violet is the mother. She is a widow, and she has 4 sons and 4 daughters, and also kind of a competing family in town, the Featheringtons. And the story basically takes place in the competitive world of Regency London, high society's town, during the season where debutantes are presented at court. And basically you get to see, how it all, kind of works its way out. The interesting thing about it is when you start watching it, it kind of has that look of, a typical British period drama, with the fancy people with their clothes and, and the dapper gentleman strolling. And then all of a sudden you realize it's a little bit different because the one prosperous gentleman that's walking down the street happens to be black and he's courting a white woman and nobody is making any qualms about it. It's just a normal thing. It kind of reminds me, I think it was only one season, and I don't even remember how many years ago, but they had kind of done a reboot of Romeo and Juliet, where they had kind of done, it was still kind of set in that same time period, but the cast was multicultural. So you had, black, white, African, black, white, Asian, and Latino, basically playing, all different characters. And the family was like a mix, each family was kind of mixed. And this is kind of the, a little bit of that vibe to it, is that there's no color, everybody is just a human being in some respects. So if you like that period drama, it's a very romantic, there's some scandal going on, there's some mystery. The other little undertone of the show is that there's a newsletter, I guess, that kind of comes out once a week. And nobody knows who writes it. And it's kind of like the gossip column of the day. And everybody, is trying to figure out who is the author of this and whatnot to it. So that kind of adds to it. And you kind of see the, all the eligible women vying for, the best suitor and what it really means to them to marry and, move on to the next stage, of their life. So really well done. And even the music too, like when they're going to balls, it's, it's that classical music, but every now and then you kind of listen and you realize it's a modern pop song, but they're doing it in classical music. So it kind of sets it. So it kind of reminds me of Knight's Tale, when they do different dance routines, but yet they're playing a modern song, in a classical way. So very well done.
Cool. Good pick.
Thank you.
So my pick this week is along the lines of back to status as usual, is a documentary called Flying Through Time. This is actually an old one that I kind of stumbled upon on Amazon Prime. This was made back in 2004. It was a single season, but they did a Herculean effort with 27 episodes in a single season. It's back in the old days when you got more than 5 episodes of something per season. Mm-hmm. So Flying Through Time, you can discover the excitement of flying as we reveal the most remarkable aircraft ever built and the aeronautical achievements that shaped aviation history. Audiences will be fascinated with educational portraits on the history of airships, warplanes, and luxury jetliners. Flying Through Time is this wonderful series all about airplanes. And what I thought was interesting about it, first of all, it's kind of quaint to watch it and see some of the visual effects that they do, because you could tell it's a low budget production.
Okay.
But it's incredibly informative. It's what they're lacking in visual effects and production value, they more than make up for in historical and factual information.
Okay.
And it's one of these shows that they don't just showcase military aircraft or commercial. It's everything. And it's not just aircraft. So from episode to episode, you'll get aircraft carriers and airplanes associated with them. And then you'll get specific aircraft like the F-14 Tomcat. You'll get giant aircraft. There's a 2-part episode about the Boeing company and its contributions to aviation. There's an episode on vertical takeoff vehicles. There's the P-38 Lightning. There's the Century fighters that came out and the 100 series of fighters that came out in the 50s and 60s. Then you have a history of commercial aviation. They don't limit themselves in the scope, and it's literally the most comprehensive history of flying that I've ever seen as far as engineering and the technology behind it and the evolution of the airplane. And every episode seems to be slightly different than the other in the way they present it. So it's a very well produced and documented program. One of the better flying ones that I've seen. I'm probably 2/3 of the way through it now, and it's one of those ones that when I put it on, I can't help it but wanting to watch the next episode and binging the whole thing. I'll watch 4 or 5 episodes at a shot. So, Flying Through Time, streaming now on Amazon Prime, and we'll be right back. So that was all we had for today, which was a lot more than I thought we had.
See?
It's amazing when you ask me to give my opinion on a movie that's really bad. Somehow I just can't help myself.
Nope. But that's okay. That's what it's all about.
Exactly. So before we go, I do want to encourage folks once again to subscribe to the podcast. You can find the audio versions as Insights into Entertainment. The video versions are Insights into Things. Currently available on Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Castro, and pretty much anywhere you can get podcasts. Before we go, I would once again also invite folks to reach out to us, give us your feedback. You can email us at comments@insightsintothings.com.
You can find us on Twitter at insights_things.
We stream 6 days a week on Twitch at twitch.tv/insightsintothings.
On Facebook at facebook.com/insightsintothingspodcast.
We are on Instagram, where at some point in time we'll post something else. It's been a while since we
posted something today.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, saying that, hey, we're back in the studio. So.
Oh, awesome. So you can find us on Instagram at Insights Into Things.
The audio version of all of our podcasts are at podcast.insightsintoentertainment.com.
You can get high-res versions of our videos on YouTube at youtube.com/insightsintothings.
And if you missed any of those and you only can remember one website, the one that has links to everything and anything would be our main website is insightsintothings.com.
And I don't know how I could forget any of that stuff because I say it 12 times during the show. But that is it for this week. Another one in the books.
Have a good week, everyone.
Take care.